We begin in Washington, where President Joe Biden is pledging to uphold a, quote, unwavering alliance between the U.S. and France.
The president is hosting his French counterpart at the White House ahead of his first state dinner since taking office. President Emmanuel Macron was greeted earlier with full-scale military honors. Afterwards, the two presidents met to discuss a number of topics, including China, green energy, and their economic policies. President Biden says the U.S. will remain fully committed to its oldest allies, and together they will remain committed to the people of Ukraine.
Today, we reaffirm that France and the United States, together with all our allies, all our NATO allies and European Union and G7, stand as strong as ever against Russia's brutal war against Ukraine. We talked a lot about that in our bilateral meeting. And we'll continue to strong support to the people of Ukraine as they defend their homes and their families and their sovereignty and territorial integrity against Russian aggression, which has been incredibly brutal. I knew Russia was, but I didn't anticipate them being as brutal as they have been and what they've been doing.
Joining us now is CBS News political correspondent Caitlin Huey-Burns from our Washington bureau. Caitlin, great to see you. French President Macron has previously criticized some of President Biden's signature domestic policies, specifically as it relates to his America First initiatives. How concerned are you, or should we be, about what is a real disagreement on policy during what otherwise is a friendly kind of state visit and show of support between the two countries?
Yeah, well, Errol, as you mentioned, this is the longest and most important alliance, especially given everything that's going on in Ukraine. And that was certainly at the forefront of these conversations today. But there are also domestic policies that the French president wanted to address, especially when it comes to the Inflation Reduction Act, which included some tax credits. And Macron and others in Europe have been arguing that that has kind of hurt French and European businesses. So that is kind of a sticking point here. Biden says when he was working on the legislation and ushering it through, he realized that now there are some tweaks, in his words, that need to be made, and assured his French counterpart that those adjustments could be considered. And so that was kind of a sticking point here. You're right to note that this is a critical alliance. It's a long-standing one, and one that still remains as such. But these are some of the sticking points that they addressed today. Biden essentially trying to calm those anxieties with the French president.
And Caitlin, turning to domestic politics, former President Barack Obama is rallying in Georgia for Senator Raphael Warnock today. Caitlin, how significant is his return trip to the Peach State at this point, the final days, really, of early runoff voting?
That's right, Elaine. The campaign has not yet ended. It goes on and on and on. We will see results, hopefully, next week. But this is significant because the former president has been a top surrogate for Democrats. He proved to be a pretty effective one in the midterm election campaign. And the Warnock campaign is hoping that he mobilizes Democratic voters especially and, reminds them of what the stakes are. Now, the control of the U.S. Senate has already been decided. Democrats will remain in control, but they want to bolster that majority. And by having another Democratic seat, by having the seat remain in their hands, that means that they can control committees outright. And it enables the Senate to do a lot of things that they are kind of hampered in doing now. As you know, and as we've covered, Kamala Harris is often a tie-breaking vote in many cases, and Democrats have had issues with some members like Joe Manchin gumming up legislation that they want to progress forward with. So having that extra seat kind of to pad their majority, which is a very slim one, that is their argument heading into this election. And making sure that people, aren't, disengaged from the process or exhausted by having so many elections as they do in Georgia.
And Caitlin, you are anchoring Red and Blue tonight, so we're sure you're going to chat about the state visit with Macron, the fancy state dinner. I don't know if you're going to talk about the food or the fashion, but what else, perhaps, maybe more essential to our lives will you be discussing?
Yeah, that lobster is on the menu
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's causing some controversy as well. We will talk to Ed O'Keefe about the state visit. We will also be talking to Mark Short, who was, of course, previously the chief of staff to former Vice President Mike Pence. We have a lot to talk to him about, including the Justice Department's investigation into January 6th, but also potentially Pence's potential run for president himself. He's been making a lot of moves. He's been doing a lot of interviews. So we'll kind of get a sense of what that timeline might look like.
All right, looking forward to it all. Caitlin Huey-Burns in Washington for us. Caitlin, thank you.
Thanks, Caitlin.
Thank you.